I'm Paige.
I'm Crazy,
And this is the Creative as a Mother podcast.
bringing the shit show to you. Welcome back to another episode of our Badass Mom Series. Today we have Anna Glass with us. She's a mom of two and is a creative recruiter. She's been in HR and recruiting for over 10 years. We were super excited when she reached out to us because she brought something different to the table, but also had a ton of great points that were super fitting. We hope you enjoy our conversation.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Hi. How are you guys on this rainy day?
Hanging in there. Paige is
Yeah, hanging in there is right. Hanging in.
has her hands full right now.
Oh,
I just had a baby. How long ago?
congratulations.
2.5 weeks ago. But this is my fifth one, so
Oh, okay.
it's just
I
whatever.
don't think that makes it easier. Or does it?
Well, it doesn't, but
I know, she says it like it does. She's like, yeah.
it just is.
Yeah, normally we're together, but she had sick kids and obviously just had a baby. So
Yeah. It's
Where's
really
your
cool.
studio? I see you guys in that little studio sometimes.
it's just at my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll probably hear my children in the background because I have the baby obviously, and then my 2-year-old is here and my 4-year-old is home from school. So
He's so precious.
thank you. He'll be the most quiet one. But okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your family. Tell us about you.
Yeah. So I'm Anna Glass. I'm a mom of two. My kids are a little bit older, so I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. I kind of feel like I'm getting to that sort of sweet spot where mine just both went to elementary school, and I feel like I can do a little bit more these days. I've been in recruiting and human resources, kind of in the advertising world for like 10 to 15 years. So I've always worked with a lot of really cool creative people. um, I sort of thought of myself as a creative, but I was never really having like that talent to do writing or designing or anything like that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be in human resources and help people that do those things. So that's just been me for the last several years. I'm also a part-time photographer just on the side for events and things like that, just like a creative outlet for me. Um, I live in Metro Detroit, and so I think it's, just such a nice community around here of moms and, you know, getting to know everybody.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know you were doing photography.
I do. I just do it part-time. It's like a
Okay.
part-time hobby. I'll do it a lot of times I do it for other mom-focused events or women's events, and I do it sort of pro bono just as so they can have photography for social media. I know a lot of women in the community that are building small businesses or building a brand. And so I kind of started photography in a way to do something creative for myself. I wanted to learn something new and to kind of help out when it comes to those type of things.
Yeah.
Um,
That's awesome.
Okay. Can you, as a creative recruiter, can you kind of explain like what that entails?
yeah. So I think for me, what it really entails, I feel like it's a little different than every other kind of recruiting because people have really special talents in the creative world. So I am kind of looking for people that are sort of like a unicorn that are going to fit in just the right position at these companies that I work for. For instance, some people might be like an illustrator, and so they've worked with the auto industry or they've worked on magazines. So I might just be looking for this special type of illustrator that's going to fit this role. A lot of the positions I do are digital, so people maybe designing websites or the functionality behind websites. And you really have to find people that are going to be cohesive and work together on a team. It's super important to place people where they're going to have the most potential. I think creatively too, a lot of people have concerns about even joining companies. They want to make sure that when they're getting a new job somewhere creative, that the company also aligns with their goals. A lot of folks may not want to sort of do work for brands that they don't really identify with or that don't share their values. So for me, I get to talk to a lot of great people in Detroit, a lot of people all over the world that sort of have these special talents and just looking for the right place for them. Um, for me, too, a big part of my job is once people are at companies, how do they grow? What's the next step for them? Because you can't just get somebody in as, let's say, a photographer. They want to know, how am I going to get a pay increase? How am I going to get the next opportunity? What does that look like for me? So I guess part of HR and recruiting is looking out for people every day and sort of seeing ahead for them. And just have to earn a lot of trust when I try to find people jobs. I'm sort of I'm explaining the pay and I'm explaining the job description. So I'm working with people in their lives, and I especially feel this when it comes to moms. Is like I cannot. I don't want to say lie just to get somebody into the company. I need to make sure that when they come into the company, that's gonna be good for them. It's good for their life, it's good for their family. So, people trust me with they tell me about themselves and what they wanna do.
That's cool. I've always like heard of your job, but I never like fully, I guess, I mean, because I really don't know much about other people's jobs anyways. But I was really interested when you reached out to us. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, recruiters are big advocates. A huge part of our job, whether you're a tech recruiter or you're recruiting for people maybe in the mortgage industry or something, we're advocates for people. We really have to understand the business, like what the company wants, and then also find the right people that are they're going to fit too. And our job is to make sure we don't want people to leave in 2 months because they hate it,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you work for one company or is it your own?
So I work on my own, and I'll also work for big companies. So what I can do is will take a full-time job working as a corporate recruiter at a company. I've done that for probably 10 years, and then I can freelance. So I can work at a company where maybe I only recruit for 2 jobs. And so it's nice to be able to freelance. I can work for 2 or 3 companies and hire a few jobs at each. I'll also try to find people that would be good, let's say on a movie set, or maybe we need a music type person. So I reference with a lot of colleagues in the Detroit area that maybe I don't find these people, but somebody I know does.
Yeah.
So then you have like a pretty good network, like within just you meet so many people, you have good resources for like filling these gaps and like connections and building like a little community within your job. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I graduated college, there really were no great jobs in the Detroit area. All of sort of the creative folks and people were moving to New York and Chicago. It wasn't really an option for me, so I stayed here, and the movie industry was sort of kicking off in Detroit, and so I feel like I started to build a network of these type of folks, and for the last 10 to 15 years, I remember them, or I keep them in my contacts, and I they try to find me gigs and I try to find them gigs, and I just think it's remembering those people that you meet. Even if you're somebody who needs to organize yourself a little spreadsheet of like, "Hey, I met that cool videographer at that one event, and she might be great for this other thing that I'm doing 6 months from now." Um, I'm really dedicated to my network. It's fun for me because I have friends and I do get invited to things by keeping this network, and it's also great for my job too because I can easily be like, "Oh, yeah, like, I could hire her. She's available to do this." So,
I think that's something that people don't like put enough weight into. Like they kind of like dismiss it or think it's not important because it's not immediately serving them, but that's like you made so many good points about it's for the future. It might not be
right.
necessary right now, but it'll benefit us so much more later. That's such a good I think we all could do a better job of that, especially in the photo industry. It can get a little cutthroat and like self-serving. And yeah, that's a good tip. I hope everybody heard that and
Yeah.
like, okay.
Just people have so many different talents that, like, So I know a few photographers that are so good at brand photography, but they will not take pictures of a 25-person family.
Right.
So I like to know people's different talents so that, and I'll keep notes of this, like, so and so's great for a giant family shot. Um, so that way that's not my area. So what I could do is I can recommend a friend. When you start recommending people, they recommend you. It becomes a little less cutthroat because you're like, okay, let me give her a leg up here.
Yeah. I have noticed that. I feel like just like as Paige and I, like our businesses have grown, like I feel like once you start networking, even with just photographers in your own community, like it builds your own business so much instead of just kind of like keeping to your bubble and like feeling you're competing with everyone else. I know. So when you reached out to us, how you mentioned about like helping women, do you find yourself specifically working with women the most?
Yeah. So I've had a few years in sort of an HR background. I work with a lot of women and men. But a lot of women who, when I'm talking to people about they'll come to me and say, I'm ready to leave the company. I need to quit. I'm like, okay, you want to quit. A lot of those times it will be women that don't see the future. Um, First of all, when we have a baby, we're in this like postpartum thing where you're like, how am I going to do this and have this career? I don't even see it for myself. Um, I was one of those women. I had a great career, and as soon as I had my first child, I was like, I gotta quit. I gotta take time off. I can't imagine driving to work or getting dressed every day to get out of the house. Um, and I really regretted that decision. It was like a big regret for me a year later where I was like, I really could have kept my job. So I've made it kind of a personal mission that when women do come to me, whether it's at the office or just friends outside of the office, I will try to go over with them like, what are the steps that you could keep your job if you really love it? Now, if you want to come and stay home and you want to be there with your kids, amazing. But if you're like, I've had this career, I'm a writer, for instance. I have this great writing career. I'm a journalist. How am I going to make this happen? I brainstorm with women about different things that you can do. There's so many options in companies that because people maybe aren't in HR, they don't know that those perks are there. There's different types of leaves that you can take through the state of Michigan. You can get grants, you can do different things, you can go part time. And most companies have these options. You just have to ask. And so I recommend women all the time, like, come to HR. Maybe you don't know HR, maybe they're in New York. Call somebody and set up an appointment before you're like, I quit. It takes a really long time to be trusted in a career to grow. And so if you don't feel you're ready to give that up, just put that out there, and let's try to find a way.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge as especially a mom once you start having kids, just like navigating work and wanting to be home with your kids. And I think that's amazing that like you're letting people know that there are options if you're wanting to do both and how to balance that and figure out whether that's taking some time off or, finding a new job or whatever works out for you. But to know that there are options is huge.
Yeah, I think it feels really lonely when you've had a baby and you've had something that you love to do, like you're a creator, to be like, I need to put this to the side. You might have to pause it a little. It might be bumpy for a few months till you figure it out, but you don't have to give it up,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think that's really important to let moms know because it's
Yeah.
especially as like a first time mom, it's very hard figuring that out and knowing what's best for you.
Yeah. I think it's for me what really helped was finding another mom out there that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I would feel this sort of sadness when I would look maybe on LinkedIn or even Facebook, social media, and see like, how is she doing this career and she's got these kids and she's a photographer, and I'd be like, I can't even like get dressed or get my bottles washed in the morning. So how will I ever get back to doing what I did? And so one day I like asked her,
Yeah.
like, how do you do it? And so I think we have to be brave. We can't, be at home saying, let me just not ask. You got to ask, and maybe she's got some tips for you that
For
could
sure.
help, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Mom mentoring.
Yes. No, we are all about that community and talking and, because it is even new mom, not a new mom, like you can feel lonely and
It starts to feel a little like I'll never, and I you can't really let those thoughts creep in.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
I liked that. Be brave and just ask. Because I think that, yeah, I don't know, people are so scared to just, like, slide into somebody's messages and ask a simple question
Yeah.
or to, like, even, like, reply into something that is, like, relatable. Like, they're just afraid to use their voice, like, they're afraid of rejection or something. Think like that. Be brave. Be brave, guys.
we get in our own heads a lot, I think, of like, "Oh, she looks so successful and I'm not, and I'm gonna feel foolish if I ask," and you're right, just slide into somebody's DMs and ask them, like, "How is it that you travel all the time? How is it that you have this corporate career in New York?"
Mhm.
You know? How did you become a photographer and do a podcast? I think if you ask people, especially I feel like other women are open to give, like, "This is how I did it."
Yeah. I think I feel like most women or moms like feel that way, but we all like once we like start reaching out to each other and connecting with each other, it's almost like you can take like a deep breath. You're like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Like other people are feeling this way. Like,
Like, I love seeing Paige with her kids, like, I love seeing women work with their kids, like,
yeah,
that's me or it was me at some point,
yep,
so, I mean,
you can do it all.
it's gonna be bumpy.
I had this is really terrible, but I had a session earlier this year and it was on a Thursday and I don't normally shoot during the week because like just for our own schedule, like my kids have so much going on weekday evenings and but for whatever reason this was on a Thursday and I just like lost track of what day it was and I thought it was Wednesday until my client's husband sent me a message on Instagram and was like, "Hey, Sam doesn't have service. We're running a little bit late." And I was like, "Cool." The so this was 15 minutes before the session starts, and we were going to Mayberry, and I'm 45 minutes south. Sweet. So called her right away, but my husband was out. So he works like 12 minutes from home, and it was almost time for him to be off, but he was running. We own an auto repair, so he was picking up a part like 45 minutes in a different direction. So I took all of them. I took all 4 of them with me to the session
Yeah.
and left them in the car because we were right off the parking lot. So it was like I was like maybe 20 feet from the van and could see it, but they kept unrolling the window and screaming out to me while I was shooting. Thankfully, this was clients that like I love them and we have a really good relationship and I've documented them a lot. But yeah, you just gotta like that's how we do it. You just have to like roll with the punches, and sometimes you have all of your kids smashed into your car while you are working.
Got to do what you
I
got to do.
as a recruiter, and I can vouch for other recruiters that I work with, when we see a mom handling her business while interviewing, while working, to me, like, I know that this is a good employee. This is going to be somebody who is dedicated because I feel like moms work that like 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. shift before they even start their job or
Yeah.
7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I think you can't be afraid to show that part of your life. Working a job or a career, I have a life. I'm not just here in this little cute square all day, or at the office. Hi. So it's okay to like bring your kids or have them.
Yeah. I think that's also really important to know because I'm sure a lot of people struggle with that, like worrying about, even for something like this, like what are my kids going to be doing or, how can I keep them distracted or, but to know that it is okay to like show that part of your life.
I feel like if you work from home and your kids are home, it's gonna happen. There's gonna be a snow day, there's gonna be a sick day.
Mhm.
If a leader really can't handle that at all, I wonder how that career is going to go for you because if it's not okay once in a while or on the screen, 2 years down the line, I don't know that that's going to end up being the right career because we have children, we have lives, there's construction in our homes and things like that. So I think, especially as the world goes forward, more people will have to accept that moms have another career.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Working
know,
2 jobs all the time. When you do work with women or moms, is that something you notice that they're really looking for in jobs? Like right now is flexibility and,
yeah.
not, yeah, being able to work from home more
That's a huge, concept for me, like, when people are interviewing women and men too, I see a lot of dads that are home and their kids
yeah,
are home, so, I think that women need that flexibility. However, I also see when women get that flexibility, when they're given the option to be flexible, they might work and do emails 6 a.m. in the morning till 8 a.m., go to the pediatrician, work the rest of the day. The women I work with value this flexibility so much that they become even more trustworthy employees because it's like you gave them space to do both. So I'm always open to it. I'm always, trying to get that flexibility for people in jobs when
yeah,
it's there.
yeah,
Sometimes you can't, sometimes like you're right, being a photographer on a shoot, maybe you can't bring your 5 kids. I don't know. But um, I think when we can give women flexibility, we should say, bring your kids. It's okay, go to the doctors in the middle of the day. And I think women as leaders, we need to show that for the next generation. Like when I see moms that might have a newborn and I have a 6-year-old, I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to go ask me for the pediatrician. Like,
yeah,
I'd have to also remember when I was in that mode of parenting too, that it was really hard. And other women spoke up for me and said, it's okay. We have to do that.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm, like, toggling between mute and unmute because of the noise in the background, but no, I just did a, newborn session in October, maybe? It was for Diffuse, um, for another photographer and her husband. They're, like, a team, and they do mostly video, but they do photo too, and, they just had their first baby. They ended up delivering 3 weeks early, so the amount of time that she blocked off early for herself to, like, catch up on stuff was gone because they delivered early. Watch out. And, so it, like it adjusted her entire maternity leave, and she also didn't, like, plan for enough because you like, especially as a first-time mom, you just don't know. You hear
Yeah.
other people taking 6 weeks and they're fine or 8 weeks and they're fine, and, she had posted, like, on her close friends, like, "My maternity leave is supposed to be over and I'm just not ready," and I was like, "You just gotta tell them, like, this is what's going on. I underestimated, like, how this change was gonna go, and I'm not ready to be back in full capacity yet, and that has to be okay. Like, your clients are going to first of all, you're being honest with them, so they find it relatable, and like you said, it's trustworthy to just be honest.
Yeah.
And, okay, hold on a second. And, um, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, when you're honest like that, people are like, "Oh my gosh, I totally get it. Like, we can figure something else out."
Yeah. It shows your strength too. And like we talked a little bit about bravery. Go to your boss, go to your leader, say, I'm not ready. I know I'm not going to do great if I come back right now. Um, Again, another mistake I made coming back from my maternity leave is like, I'll just not say anything and I'll just go back. And I wasn't ready. I didn't do a good job. So I would rather have gone back part time or 10 to 15 hours a week or whatever and ease myself in and be successful. Because if you're going to go back after 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 24 weeks and you're not ready for it, you're not going to do great at work. Your mind isn't there. I see the strongest women come to their bosses and they write down what they need and they give it and they do it. So it's really up to you though. You're going to have to be strong to say, yeah, I'm not ready. But here's what my plan is. I always find that works the best. Make a plan of what you actually want and present it. Or bring
Yeah.
it to HR and say, "Hey, will you look this over for me? Can we talk do you think this would go over? Do you think this would be cool?" Um, so I think it's just you have to ask.
When you first started out, or when you first started having kids, did you feel like you had a community right away?
Um, I didn't feel like I had a community right away, because my community was before I had kids was sort of this like fun and out there in the world and hanging out and when I became a mom, I couldn't always go with those same people. Um, for me, I had some really great moms and some really great people on my team, colleagues who were like helpful. They asked me, "Do you need things?" And so a lot of times I didn't accept the help, but then I learned to be like, "Yeah, I do need coverage. I do need you to go do this for me. I do need some help, mom or my sister or somebody." Um, and that's what I've really learned is that it takes a village thing. You might have to accept the village though. It might not look how you think, but if people are giving you help or somebody's going to drop off your groceries, like just say yes to the help.
Yeah.
And that's how I built my community is other women who were more experienced than me in motherhood. They offered me some advice and I listened to it and some I take and some I'm like, that's not really for me. But that's also how I built a community of like, okay, so she invited me to this mom's group in the playground. I should probably go. Or this group of moms is going out for drinks. They have older kids than me, but when I went, I made that community. And those are the people I ask now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about, and this is something that I feel like is becoming more, I don't even know the word. I don't want to say common, but like, I guess it's becoming more common, but more photographers are seeking this, and it's not been something that's like really been, on a lot of people's radars or not something that they like felt was attainable for them, but was multiple streams of income. So you are working for one company or maybe multiple companies, but then you're also doing stuff on the side for
Yeah.
yourself. How does that look for you in terms of balance and like having your hands in so many little hats?
Um, well, first of all, being a recruiter, being a photographer, those are never constant streams of income. So, like, even I've been employed full time corporate, and if the market goes up or the economy goes down, you're going to make less money. So, I started the multiple streams of income because I was like, I know what I want to make every month in my mind, and I don't know how I'm going to get there. And so I thought I need to do a couple of things. How it works is just definitely being organized. And I started it off with doing free things. So when I wanted to do photography, even recruiting events and things like that, I will go to free things that maybe are a little out of my realm. So I'm not really a tech recruiter, but I'll go to tech recruiting events sometimes and maybe I'll just visit with a colleague for a little and see like how does she do it or how does he do it. That's what helps me sort of get to the next level. And seems kind of silly when you're super busy and you're like, why am I going to go to this free photography thing? And I'm busy, a busy mom. But that's kind of how it starts. You sort of need to see how it's done to be like, is this even something I want to do? So I call it like a free internship for myself and I make it up myself. Like I find some things in the local community that I have interest in that I might be able to attend. And I do that first. And then once I start doing it, I'm like, okay, I could put a money value to this. Um, but a lot of research.
That's really good. I think it's even just, like, overwhelming for people to think about, like you said, "How am I gonna do this when I already don't have time?" But that was a good point, like, putting your feelers out there and just even testing the waters on if it's something that you're even gonna wanna do or not. And we don't have to do everything that everybody else is doing, like, I feel like in our industry especially, everybody's trying to sell presets or courses or education and all of these things, and some people are doing that because they are passionate about it and that's where they're, like, naturally being drawn to go. But then I think that some people are doing it because they're like, "Oh, well, this person is doing it and it's successful for them, even though I'm not naturally." Like, I tell Frankie all the time she needs to sell templates for, like,
Right.
different things because she's naturally good at, like, doing stuff on like, putting those things together and, like, making them aesthetically pleasing, and I am awful at it, so I would not Like, I'm not trying to make templates for people because I don't want to sit there and build them. Um, that's good. Testing the waters and seeing what you actually even like to
Yeah.
monetize.
You see these businesses and things on Instagram and on TikTok, and you're like, "Oh, that would be such a good stream of income for me." It really won't be though if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, when I the first time I was thinking about learning photography or getting a camera, I saw how photographers worked at weddings, and I was like, "I don't think that's gonna be me." And I thought I could totally, "Oh, I love weddings. Let me," and I got there and I was like, no."
Yeah.
So, maybe photography isn't your thing. Maybe it's becoming a real estate agent, or maybe it's, designing templates or doing something on Etsy, but just because photography looks so cool, it may not be your thing, but
Yeah.
find something you wanna do.
No, I think that's important to note, like, to pay attention to things that, like, maybe you have a lot of interest in, but you've just never thought that, like, you could do anything with it, like, whether it's in a different field, but it's still creative. But to kinda deep dive into that a little bit, dive dive deeper.
I think the money thing, um and for me, it was a little, like, out of mind because I know people that deal with money or how to freelance and things like that, so I was lucky in that sense, but start on the, like, creative part first, and then once you get that and you feel good about it, then maybe ask a friend or a colleague, "Hey, how do I make this a business?" Because there's also people out there who are really good at making businesses, and you're really good at the creative part. So, and that's a lot of the people I work with who are creatives, they don't handle the money side. They don't handle the building a site and the tax IDs and stuff. So, it can feel so overwhelming to start a business when you're creative because you're like, how am I going to make an LLC? And so I think start with your talents first. Start with your creativity, and then 6 months you're doing it, say, all right, now I'm going to key into another woman who's maybe really good at accounting or something, and then let that person help you do those other things.
Yeah.
That's probably what she's good at it.
Yeah. No, I feel like you keep mentioning this, but I think that's so important to, like, not be afraid to reach out to people in any industry, like, whether it's something you have interest in or whatever it is, but to just not be afraid to reach out to people.
I think a lot of it stems from that feeling of competition.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to put that aside, I
Yeah.
think, and say, I have friends who are lawyers and who are accountants and things like that. That's not my talent. That's not me. That I'm not with that stuff. So, yeah, I have to sort of sound a little weird at first and be like, "What is an LLC? What is? How do I do taxes or what?" And so, but when they need photos or something for their event, they don't understand that part. So just be proud of your talents and enjoy somebody else's talents if you need
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. I mean, you're never gonna know if you don't ask. So
Right.
I love that part so much. I don't know. I like really hope people soak that in because we I feel like as entrepreneurs, we get very stubborn and like we have to know how to do everything. We have to do it all ourselves instead of like you said, seeking out the expert in each specific thing. Frankie and I were just talking about that the other day as we both tried to build our own websites, even though we hate doing it.
Right.
Why are we doing this for ourselves?
yeah. Yeah. No, that's true.
I learned too from a friend of mine, she's a stylist, a hairstylist, that it's okay to ask for a trade. Like, will you trade me some photos and I'll trade you this? Or will that builds community. I think it's kind
Mhm.
of cool to, have somebody say, will you help me set up this business and I'll, do something for you. So,
Yeah.
um, can look for those opportunities too. It doesn't always have to cost you $600 to do your website or something. Somebody might be looking to trade some family photos or whatever.
Yeah. That's a good point.
This is in the back of my head, so I'm just gonna ask you really quick. How small of small businesses do you work with?
Um, I will work anybody, one person, really.
Okay. Well, I'm specifically asking because one of our like what is this called, Frankie?
Merch, sweatshirts.
Oh,
Printing?
merch.
I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Our sweatshirt people who made our sweatshirts and like they do vinyl printing or not vinyl, screen printing. Screen printing is the word I was 4. Um, they are husband and wife. They have a young family. The wife is a photographer. She just asked me the other day if I knew anyone who was looking for a part-time sales job because they're having a really hard time finding somebody for their small business for sales because it's just the two of them and they work with a lot of local schools and have been doing all of the schools um like merchandise and stuff. So they're fulfilling larger orders for these school districts, but they are like at they're expended, like max capacity for their own selves, and they need someone part-time, but they're having a hard time finding somebody or finding somebody that has the availability that they need and is like actually what they're looking for. So that's why I was saying if that would be something I could refer her to you for, or if they
Yes.
were too small for you.
No, absolutely. Um, yeah, I some of my best things, part of my career started as maybe like one person, and that one person knows one person. So, yeah, if you see these big brands on social media and you're like, I want to dream big. Yeah, you can totally dream big and you should. But I think too, there's some really nice one-on-one connections that we forget about when we are looking at things from an outside perspective is like that one person could become, the person that refers you to every school or something like that. So, um, still make those good one-on-one connections.
Yeah. So how do you personally deal with burnout as, handling all you do and then hi. Handling all you do and then being a mom on top of it?
Um, I think for me, handling burnout is I'm always keeping um, kind of time management's a big one for me, and that took a number of years for me to really get down what I need to do. But Um, if I don't do certain things like at night or in the morning, I find that I have a really jumbled next day. So I really try to organize like kids' things that I might need to do the night before or in the morning. And working creatively or working in recruiting, I keep a notebook with me all the time, 24 hours a day in my purse, in my car. Seems so silly, but I feel like I get sort of upset or even irritated if I had this great idea but I had it in the middle of taking my kids to soccer. So I, as a mom, just write down every little thing. So you'll see my notebook and it's got like my grocery list, my Christmas gift list, and then like some creative ideas. Like I've thought up different Instagram names, or I've thought of like the salesperson for this job. Like maybe I ran into somebody that would be that great person. So um, I find the burnout comes for me when I'm like, I'm not doing my full potential. So I'll maybe just sit around and feel kind of sorry for myself that I had this great idea and I don't know what happened to it. So write those things down. It sounds silly to say journaling, but that really works for me.
It does even, I don't know if Paige, if you were, I think we talk about it because we have like shared notes. So I've been trying to be better about even just like typing notes into my phone, but I just recently started actually like writing things down. And I feel like just that has made like a big difference for me, like physically writing it down and looking at it or like putting it on a post-it note and having it like by my desk so I can see it instead of getting like I love the notes in my phone, but I feel like I get lost in there sometimes. So it's nice physically writing it down. I feel like makes a huge difference for me at least.
We talked about how my notes are like an endless pit. Like I don't start a new one for different topics. I just have like this one really long running note. So there's just like passwords and dinner plans from like August and like all of these things in this one very long note. But then I can't find anything.
Right.
So no, writing it down is a better idea than my abyss of notes.
I try to limit social media. I got into a really bad habit of immediately waking up and doing social media and going on things like that. Um, I do find social media helps me so much kind of get different creative ideas, but starting my day off with it and then I just like sit there and scroll.
Yeah.
I find if I just wait, I put like a set time in my day for social media, I'm better with that
Yeah.
mentally.
I feel like that's something I always think about doing. I have those days where I'm like, okay, or especially like having kids, just like being on your phone a lot too. Like I'll notice like Axel will be like, "What are you doing on your phone?" And I'm like, "Oh, crap." Like, put my phone away, like hide it. I don't need to be on it right now, because I feel like so much we're just like aimlessly scrolling on there and like just rotting our brains or getting down about, over even like looking at our own work over and over and getting down about it. So I think that is something I want to try to be better about, like kind of having boundaries with social media and
Yeah, I felt like I read this book that really hit home for me, is like it was this book that was saying, "I don't have time for this." And so a lot of times as moms, we say, "I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to," even like, "I don't have time to blow dry my hair every day," or whatever. But then the book was saying, "Well, how long did you spend on social media today?" So if I had those 2 or 3 hours that maybe I scrolled, and I realized I was doing that.
yeah,
So, now I'm like, "All right, let me do something I really wanna do, and I'll do a little social media later."
yeah, yeah,
I read a lot of books, and that has been, like, the number one. I update them in, like, my Instagram story, and I have a highlight, so, like, for everything that I've read this year, and at the beginning of the year last year, I set a ridiculous goal, well, it felt ridiculous at the time, for 50 books this year. I'm on 47 right now, and that is, like, the number one question that everybody asks is, "Where are you finding time to read?" But I'm reading, like, in, like, an hour before bed instead of doom scrolling on my phone while I'm just laying there, or
Mhm.
I'm reading when I'm sitting in the pickup line, like, waiting for the kids instead of doom scrolling on my phone. Like, it's just shifting, like, these little bits of time where you would, yeah, just be mindlessly scrolling on our phones.
And make sure your scrolling is I'll try to look at cool creative things that might give me positivity. Like,
Yeah,
I think sometimes if I'm just scrolling through my contacts from high school or different things on TikTok, I'm like, I don't know, mentally, is it doing much for me? So I love social media. I love looking on all those sites. And so I really try to like pique interest by looking at photographers I might want to aspire to be. So use your social media time as something that's gonna like build you up, or look on TikToks for like women, females pay, or things like that that might educate you a little in that social time.
yeah. No, that's a good point. I try and like on my because I have like we have our business accounts, then a personal account, and I find myself spending way less time on my personal account because it's just nothing on there. It's like you said, like a bunch of people from high school or whatever. So like trying to spend more time on my business one at least, and like supporting local creatives and stuff is
Yeah.
way better than just looking at nonsense. Well, I was just going to ask if there was any other like words of wisdom or anything specific that you wanted to cover that we haven't covered yet.
I just think for me, the words of wisdom is sort of march to your own tune. Comparing yourself, and this is something I feel like I had to learn, was is just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Like, make something up in your mind and start doing it, and it's gonna be weird, it's gonna be clunky, and it's not gonna work, but, waiting and comparing yourself, and then you're just bringing yourself down going, "Why didn't I try something?" Um, at least I think now as I'm getting older, I try things, they don't work out, and you know what? At least I put a little checkbox in my mind, like, yeah, I tried photography, or yeah, I tried swimming every day, or I tried reading 50 books. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but it's better than looking back with regret and saying, why didn't I? So I just think like go forward, ladies, and just say yes to some things and reach out to your friends and call them if you have questions.
I love it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for this, though. We were so excited when you reached out.
I think that our jaws were, like, in the basement, like, you found us, and that was so cool, like, that just thank you for reaching out to us because truly that, like, sent us to the moon, like, we were so, like, floored by that.
Yes.
Well, I love your mission, and I wish you guys so much success, and I just hope more women come together and grow groups like this. It's amazing. So thank you.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to rate us, subscribe, and follow along on Instagram. All right, bye.